In 1990, the North Alabama Conference Commission on the Status and Role of Women recognized a barrier breaker, and that began a tradition of each year at annual conference recognizing someone who has worked to lift up those on the margins and specifically to work for the full inclusion of women in the total life of the church. The award became known as the Louise Branscomb Barrier Breaker Award. Let's hear from a past recipient.
Commission on the Status and Role of Women. I was the first chair of that, and that's where I got involved with Louise Branscomb. We would meet together and talk about different issues that were coming up maybe for annual conference, and things like that. Would discuss and try to decide, you know, which was the best side, which, you know, everybody has a side. So you can't always, but it was such a supportive group. And of course there were men too who were very supportive of me. I mean, there were a lot of people that weren't excited about the women's group being organized. The bishop was not very accepting. I remember we were real busy about getting issues out to the conference, and he wasn't too pleased about that. And but another thing that really deflated me, I guess you could say, was at conference we brought up the idea of to send the legislature was in the process of equal rights amendment for women. And so I just thought it would be a great idea to have the conference send a message to the legislature, you know, supporting the equal rights amendment. Well, honey, when it came to a vote, these young Methodist ministers were sitting right in front, and they, no, they just stood up, and I felt so deflated. That's part of it. But that was one of the things I remember mostly about it. But then got support from women all over the conference, you know, that they were for it. There was this older pastor whom I had known for years and years and years. And I was kind of like the little pet dog that was hurt, you know, and I went over and I said, I can't believe this. He said, Betty, he said, just stick to what you believe. And he says, it'll come about. And he said, you know, this is just the way it is. That's life. And, you know, you get your oppositions, and you get your confirmations. And so I learned that quickly. And I was really shocked because I had just never been a person who had, you know, been in the front line, so to speak, and so vocal or anything. And I just found myself being pretty vocal. And I thought, well, maybe the Lord's doing something to me. I mean, I can remember being on the stage and where there was some question, you know, and I just felt that God was leading me, and I'm sure they felt God was leading them. So we just got to forget our differences and concentrate on trying to get something done as a whole church. I mean, I didn't ever worry about not having the same ideas or anything because, I mean, my husband and I don't have the same ideas, but we've been together for 70 years, and so, and I love him to death, and he loves me. So you can have your differences and still not be bitter. I just find that just so many of the women who worked during that time just were such inspirations. And of course, Louise Branscomb being one of the ones, she was my ideal. I mean, I just adored her. She was a very supportive person. I wish we had more. And we probably have more than I know about, but she was an inspiration. I was just impressed. I just love the church. I love what they stand for, and I love for what what is coming that they're going to stand for, I think. Well, I feel sometimes like the church is not, I don't mean the church, but people responding to the church is not very healthy, I don't think. And I don't understand why, because you can get so much hope when you go to church and you have a good preacher like ours. And the messages she brings are just so enlightening. And I think, you look at today's news, you think, why don't they go and hear, what Christ did and what he does? And it would change things. That's my hope, is that people will look at the life that Jesus lived to help them look at fellow human beings as somebody special instead of somebody they hate. So my hope is that we can get more love out for people who are doing what we think is wrong.
Thank you for watching this video. The work of breaking barriers is ongoing. With that in mind, and on behalf of the Commission, I would like to invite you to follow the link below to nominate any person or persons who exhibits the behavior and spirit of a barrier breaker. The nomination deadline is March 31st. Until next time, may God's grace and mercy enfold you.